Welcome to Monday Mindset. Today, I want to talk to you about pressure. Now, what comes to your mind when you hear that word pressure? Do you think that pressure is a good thing or a bad thing? Do you think that you play better with pressure, maybe better without pressure? What type of things increase pressure and what type of things decrease pressure? So maybe you feel more pressure when it's game point, or maybe you feel more pressure when you're playing with certain people, or maybe you feel more pressure when a certain coach walks in the gym, or maybe when your parents are, watching you play. Whatever that is, just take notice, like what comes to mind when you hear the word pressure. So to help us understand pressure a little bit better, I brought my volleyball. You probably can't tell, but this volleyball is a little flat. It doesn't have enough pressure in it. But like all good volleyballs, it has on here, it states how much pressure is optimal. So for me to get the best use out of this ball, how much pressure it needs to have. And this ball says it needs 2.5 to 3.2 PSI. So PSI is just a measurement of pressure or stress. I find that very interesting. That's included in the description for PSI. It's the measurement of pressure or stress. And this is very important because pressure and stress are linked. And we're going to talk about that in just a second. But for this, there's a range, right? There's a range of pressure that this ball needs to perform the best. So what happens if I were to go out and play with this ball just like it is? It's a little flat. It has too little pressure in it, right? So when it has too little pressure, it's not going to respond very well. So I might serve it. It's going to be kind of flat. It's going to be harder to use. And it's just not going to perform its best when it doesn't have enough pressure in it. What if I decide that I'm going to put some more pressure in this ball and I just take it and I put as much air as I possibly can in it and it has too much pressure? What happens when it has too much pressure? Well, if you've played with a ball that has too much pressure, first of all, it's going to be very tight, right? We could say the ball is going to be stressed out. If I play with a ball that's in a stressed out state, it's got too much pressure, it could burst, it could get damaged. When I contact the ball and it's got too much pressure, it's going to hurt a little bit more than it normally would. So I could even get hurt more if this ball is stressed out and has too much pressure. Essentially, too much pressure is also going to make this ball not perform optimally, and it's going to increase the chances of somebody getting hurt, either the ball getting hurt or me getting hurt. So what about if I just fill this ball up with the appropriate amount of pressure? This, around this 2.5 to 3 range of pressure. Well, when a ball has the appropriate amount of pressure, it's going to feel really nice when it hits my arms. And also when I'm playing with it, I'm going to get the best use out of this ball. It's going to respond appropriately when I play with it. So that's really what we want, right? We want the appropriate amount of pressure that's going to give us the best experience playing with this ball. Now, you are the exact same as this ball. You have a range that is an appropriate amount of pressure that you're going to perform your best when you experience that amount of pressure. Having too little pressure is going to cause you to underperform, and too much pressure is going to cause you to be stressed out and not perform your best. So just like a ball, the way I measure the pressure that a ball has is I use this awesome tool, right? Like you've probably seen one of these. It's a way of just measuring how much pressure is in the ball so that I can know, like, okay, that's too much. I need to take some air out, or it needs more air. Now, what if you had one of these that was just for you, that you could actually tell when you were feeling too much pressure or too little pressure? We're actually going to create a tool for you so that you can do this. First of all, this unit has a measurement of 1 to 15. So we're going to do the same thing for you. We're going to say that 1 to 5, if you're on the scale of 1 to 15, and if you're at a 1 to 5, that's too little pressure. If you're in the 1 to 5 range, you're not going to be performing your best. And 5 to 10 is going to be your ideal range, where if you're feeling a pressure between a 5 and a 10, like that's going to be where you're going to perform your best. Okay. And then a 10 to a 15 is going to be when you're actually in that stressed out state where it's no longer pressure, it's no longer helpful, it's actually not helpful. And you're going to underperform or not perform your best also because there's too much pressure there. Okay. So I want you to think about this range 1 to 15. And how do you get in that zone from 5 to 10? What actually creates pressure and what actually can lessen pressure? Well, if we think about that, pressure isn't created by a situation. It's not created by if it's game point. There are some people who maybe feel very stressed out and high pressure on game point, and there might be some people who don't feel any pressure on game point, right? And maybe some people feel the appropriate amount of pressure on, yeah, it's game point, and they feel some pressure, but they're able to still perform their best, even if it's game point. Doesn't matter what's going on. So, what creates pressure is all in your mind. It's how you think about situations, it's how you're interpreting what's going on. And it's different for everyone. So, this is where awareness of when you feel pressure, when you feel too much pressure, when you feel stressed out, and when you're not feeling enough pressure, having that awareness of why is really critical for you to be able to be in your zone of the amount of pressure that's going to help you perform your best. So, as a general rule, most athletes experience too much pressure when they are thinking thoughts based out of fear. Things like, oh, if I mess up, I'm going to lose the game, or I'm not good enough. This is a big game, or this is varsity, right? Like in your mind, it's like a really big deal. You're putting this experience up on this pedestal where like it's do or die. So anytime we're adding fear to this equation, like not being good enough, or everyone's watching, or what are they going to think about me, we're just adding pressure to ourselves. So it's just good to know that, like if that's happening to you, like you're creating unnecessary pressure, and this pressure is going to help you not perform well. And what you want is to perform well. And this type of pressure and stress is not helpful. So it's good to recognize that. And on the flip side, something that maybe decreases pressure, so where you're in that 1 to 5 range, is also not helpful, is things like maybe this doesn't matter, or this team's not very good, or I'm better than this team. Like maybe I don't have to play very well and we're still going to win. So really just being focused on the wrong thing is going to either increase pressure or decrease pressure. So how do you get that optimal, that sweet spot of pressure that's really going to help you perform your best? It's all about what you're focused on. And the very best thing to focus on is what you want. I love to think that what could be a high pressure situation is like, I wanted this. Like, I want to play against the best competition. I want to challenge myself. I want to see what I'm capable of. I want to have the ball in my hands on game point. I want the ball. I hope they serve it to me. I hope the setter sets me. Like, I want the ball. I want this opportunity. I want to see what I'm made of. And with the knowledge also that either I'm going to rise to the occasion and it's going to be awesome, or I'm going to learn so that I can do it better next time. Like no matter what, it's for my benefit. No matter what, this is helping me. So I want you to really take notice this week. Like, where are you at on this scale for pressure? Where do you find yourself? Do you find yourself too much pressure? Do you find yourself not enough pressure? How can you get in that sweet spot so that you're performing your best and letting pressure help you actually become the best that you can be? I hope this helps. If it does, share it with a friend, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye, friends.